civil servants is dealing with the civilian sector. That's why it's called civilian or civil, right? And so that's going to work more with the general public of a country's community or peoples, right? And so those are civil servants, would be the people that are working on behalf of the people. Whereas a military doesn't go get a civil servant number, they go get a military postal registration number, because the post office is in charge of the militaries of the world. And so they have to go to the post office first to get their military registration number, which is not a civilian number, it's a postal registration number. Once they have their postal registration number, now they can apply to go into the different branches of military to now work for the postal militaries. The employees of the military actually work for the post office. Their civilian numbers are not a liquidable number to enter the military corporations such as the Marine Corps, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy. And so they work for the post office, whereas you don't necessarily need to go get a postal registration number before you go register to be a civil servant and work for the government. The government, they get their connection to the post office through the money that they pay for the services that they render. And the money that they get paid in is classified as a bill of lading, or bill of lading in fiction, pronoun, adverb, verb. And so what happens is, because of the services that they render for the tasks, to complete their jobs, they require something, and what they require is pay. And that pay comes through the bill of lading, which gets its authorization from each country's post office. And so that's how the post office stays in charge of the government, because the post office can make a choice whether they want to continue making the pay or not. And if they stop making the payment, then the civilian who's working for the government, the civil servant, he's not going to want to do his job because he's not being paid for his tasks and performances of his, tangible energy that he's conveying for his job. The fraud comes in because the post office doesn't have the authorization to pay him, and they've continued to pay him, creating a quagmire because they've had their fake presidential elections since 1999, and every president after 1999 has been actually a false president heading up only a bankrupt charter that is defunct and rogue, because the charter itself doesn't have the liquidity to liquidate, because it has no flag to give closure where it comes from. That's why you see the administrations running the 2x5 Obama flag, which is not registered anywhere in the world, so it's a rogue corporation. The capacity for the post office to engage in commerce ended, and I took it one step further, because as comptroller of the global currencies and what I had done on the global theater of unwinding what makes banks banks, what gives banks and corporations authorizations to distribute money and liquidate through volume and velocity of currency, because the post office lacked its authorization. And when I traced the commercial ventures back, it went through, unfortunately, these secret society of ley lines that led through the Vatican to control the C, S-E-E. And we learned that in the Montana Freeman case in 1996, when Judge Burns looked at the Montana Freeman, and he said to the people on trial, he said, "You people can't see what you're doing," and they all started laughing at the judge. But the judge was telling the truth, because the definition of C, S-E-E, in a legal sense, means to look through the Pope's jurisdiction or authorization, through the diocese jurisdiction. So the C treaty, the SEE treaty, which I unraveled and we unraveled, is we filed for the use of the characteristics of symbolism, the hieroglyphics of numbers, the hieroglyphics of alphabets, to now create thought, to create matter for comprehension on paperwork. And we filed for all the symbols on paperwork, as well as the ink or the art matter, which is being articulated by the authors on the paperwork. And I took it one step further as comptroller of the global currency, and this is why I have all my authorizations in place, is I restructured a periodic table to finite give closure on the magnetic flux, which is in fact a noun, not a verb. Magnetism is a noun because you must perceive it in your mind first, conceptualizing it as a fact, even though the magnetic flux is in constant motion. It has to be captured in the essence of the freeze frame of the mind, which sees it as a condition of state, as a cartouche or as a noun. And so the noun has jurisdiction over the verb of the magnetic flux. So when I rewrote the periodic table as comptroller of the global currencies, this is when the NSA and the CIA and Department of Defense considered it a huge national security concern, because I had just taken out the capacity to identify molecular matter for communication. And I took it to a real finite level with the Sea Treaty at the Vatican, and this is what gave me my position as key master of the Vatican. And, when I closed that door as key master, and then I came in with a key holder, a female, later on down the line, and took out Dave as key master because he did not have the female power there, the female energy under matriarchy, patriarchy, when I basically sidelined that whole concept of matriarchy, patriarchy for growing wealth on planet Earth. I closed the door so nobody could come behind and claim these things. So when I see people out there, like I see actual females claiming to be a key master, well, that's, typically someone that has a different chromosome. So when you do your due diligence out here, people, when you see these people making all these claims in quantum grammar that are, coming pretty new into the theater, and I mean new, anything after 2003, because it was all done by 2003, 2004 for these ley lines at the Vatican. The authorizations for, I don't know where I got it off in this tangent, but it's a good tangent to go on, but because it authenticates my position as comptroller of the global currencies. The grammar and the articulation of communication at such a unique level, where somebody took jurisdiction of the characteristics of symbols, which are, the alphabets, and the numerical system. This actually separated me from all the posers on the planet that were trying to claim that they had comprehended molecular structure, as well as, the matter of gold and silver and all the things that came into place on the chemistry side of things. So it's been a huge undertaking through the years to figure out what makes a comptroller of the global currencies, how it came tied through the Postmaster-generalship, which is kind of where I wanted to go with tonight's talk, is, talking about Postmaster-general of the world, what that really is, and all the dynamics that came into place to allow those functions to come in place, where, thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of hours of study time, as well as applied application for contracts and, 10, 20,000 treaties worldwide, just to articulate what the comptroller of the global currencies is, and how the quantum banking system has come into place to basically terminate banking on planet Earth, suspend banking on planet Earth, because there's abundance everywhere, and you don't need a credit and debit system. So it's a very powerful thing, because the power's back into the position of the people when you don't have credit and debit, and accountability and due diligence is completely upon the people, because, like I said earlier, governments work for the people. People are in charge.